As a small biz pro, I saw we roll, using procurement, program, and control. As a small biz pro, I saw we grow, using procurement, program, and control. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh yeah, I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh yeah, I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh yeah. Crystal Mitchell, do you have a business?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. This is a Business Zone with
Crystal
and Gilbert Buchanan, your small business paramedic. And today, Crystal, we're still in Black History Month, right?
We're still in Black History Month. We still have another week. You know, it's still a very short week, short month.
We haven't left it yet. So
right, exactly.
We're going to let it extend throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, we're going 365 days on it because I think it's very important
That's
now.
That's right.
But it was Valentine's Day this weekend.
Oh, yes. How was your Valentine's?
Mine is always nice because it's all about me. And I know exactly how to treat me.
Oh, man.
I didn't have to worry about no one buying gifts
no flowers,
no
dinners.
No dinner. It was just me and then some more me.
Oh, man.
But my brother-in-law did cook for himself and for my sister. And my nephew. Although my nephew was asleep. And so it was us. And my sister went out and got a Hanson's cake and some cupcakes. So that's how we spent.
That's good.
And
man.
I was supposed to go to, where was I supposed to go? I was supposed to go to my burlesque class, which was going to be the other part of my holiday.
Yeah.
But I thought the studio was closed. I got an email. But it was the yoga class that had canceled, not that class. So I just stayed home and just relaxed and watched movies.
Those are the best kinds of Valentine's. You just kick back, do nothing, talk to no one, have a good time, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, man. And see, I spend the later part of the evening working.
Oh, well, you weren't supposed to do that.
I wasn't supposed to do that. But I figured, I got to get this website done and I got to get it launched and, all of this stuff, man. So we're going through a lot of things and we're almost there.
Okay,
we're
good.
Almost there.
That's good. Well, that'll be great.
Very excited about it.
Yeah.
I did a presentation on it today and potential client, they love what they saw. So.
Oh, okay. Well, that's important. That's great.
Oh, yeah.
Well, then I guess the work was
kind of, sort of.
I'm sure.
I would have rather spent my evening sleeping or relaxing. I had dinner. I had some Middle Eastern food.
Okay.
And what else? I don't remember. It was just a blur to me.
Oh, okay. No, my brother-in-law, what did we have? We had steak. I don't eat shellfish, but he had lobster and shrimp. And
you don't eat lobster?
I'm allergic to it.
Oh,
and
it's good to know.
Yeah, I know.
So I can't surprise you on your birthday.
Oh, no. I wouldn't eat it. I know exactly what I'm allergic to. So
you remember that show with Will Smith, Fletch, I think.
Oh, yeah. When the face,
he was allergic to seafood. Yeah. That wouldn't happen to you, right?
No,
you wouldn't get swallowed.
Well, actually, before I found out, and I was young. I was in my early 20s, I think, when I found out that I was allergic to shellfish. I'm also allergic to certain nuts, almonds.
Wow.
And I'm allergic
I'm glad you're telling me these things, Crystal.
What else am I allergic to? Mushrooms. So I know what I can't eat.
Wow.
I'm not from a family that grew up on seafood.
Yeah.
And my mom didn't like shellfish, so we never had it. Yeah. So I found it out by going to Benihana's for dinner, and I got violently ill afterwards.
How did it make you feel?
Well, didn't anything swell up. It just, my stomach just could not handle it. And so when I came home, I thought I had gotten food poisoning. That's what the results was.
Wow.
And so that was the first time. And I weathered through that, and then I tried it again, and I was like, wait a minute.
Same result.
And then after that, I had some allergy tests.
You said, that's it.
That's it. So I had allergy tests, and then I found out exactly what I was allergic to, so I don't eat those things.
I hear that. That's good to know. See, when you've got a co-host, you want to know all of those things.
So I'm very, very careful when I eat, if there's like a buffet type of or or someplace like that where there's open food.
Yeah.
And crab meat is usually, it can look like chicken, unless you see the red piece. I always have to ask. So if I'm at some place where they're doing the hand serving, no, you got to tell me what I'm about to eat.
Once they say, I don't know what's in this, so I'm sorry, I can't eat it.
I don't even try. So I have not had any flare-ups. But the family, and then now my household, my brother-in-law and my nephew, they're allergic to regular fish, so they can't eat. I think they can eat. No finned fish. So they can't eat that, but they can eat shellfish.
Wow. It's the total
reverse. So my nephew, now he can eat mussels and clams and all that sort of stuff, but he can't eat like red snapper, halibut, salmon, none of that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. My sister, she can eat just about everything. She is the eat everything person. She the eat everything. She will try everything. So she's the adventurous one in the family.
I hear
the rest of us is like, not.
I hear that.
But that's what we had for dinner on Valentine's Day. So it was a day. It was done.
Yeah, it was a day. Next day, back to work.
Right. But then my sister's birthday was last Friday. So we were celebrating. Yeah, so
where'd you guys go?
Actually, she's working. She's working. I'm working.
Yeah.
So she has 3 houses that are in process of closing.
Oh, wow.
So right now, that's all she worried about. She could care less that you
bringing those dollars.
Bringing those dollars. So I went over to the Pan-African, the Pan-African.
I wanted to go.
Yeah, I haven't gone to any of the movies, although I heard last night they actually did a on the Black Panther. So I think they had a screening last night of that.
I hear it's good.
Yeah, and then I heard some other people said there's been some great movies. So this is where the young black young old black directors and producers.
Donnie Glover is a part of that.
Mm-hmm. So there's some when you go over to the mall, you see a lot of people roaming through. But also, which you might want to. I don't know when it's over, but there is a little expo in the mall. Oh. So all African attire and jewelry, and it's really nice. Products, and some of the vendors came from Africa. They're from Kenya and Ghana, and so I got my piece and this was actually made in Kenya. Oh. And so I bought my sister one. See?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this is actually nice. So the proceeds goes back to them. So she had earrings and bracelets.
Recycling that dollar.
Recycling that black dollar, man. It's important.
That's good.
So that's kind of what I did. I did that on, I think, Monday or Tuesday, because I went and got her gift. So I think it was Monday or Tuesday.
That's
I popped
cool,
over.
Crystal. That's cool.
Yeah.
You're well cultured.
I'm very cultured. I just like my people.
When I grow up, I want to be just like you.
I just love my people. That's what I like. I love being black. That. I love, we're such a talented people.
Yeah, and diverse.
And we come from every walk of life. This week also was Fat Tuesday, so you had Mardi Gras going on. Yeah. So you have that culture going on. So February is actually a very powerful month.
And then you got Carnival in Trinidad.
Yeah, you got Carnival in Trinidad and in the Caribbean and Brazil and any of the areas where they're black folk. So that's pretty cool. So
that's good.
It's a good month for us.
That's good, man.
And I think when I was researching for Black History Month, this is also National Heart Month.
Oh, wow.
So, that's all part of love.
Oh, yeah. I used to go to that event with Sharon Evans.
Did you?
Yeah, the Heart Foundation, they always have an event this month.
Okay.
And the last time they had it at the Metro station there, Grand Station.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's nice down there.
In the courtyard.
Oh, nice.
That was really nice right there.
Okay.
And, a lot of high rollers were there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Giving their money and their donations. Talk about the Heart Foundation and, what it's done for people. How they've contributed and donated, and it's just a wonderful thing. Yeah,
because nowadays you see so many. In fact, there was a blessing that took place. I don't know. I think I mentioned it to you last month in January. One of my the tennis players that are involved in our tennis club and in our youth program. Yeah. He had a heart attack on a tennis court. Ooh. And he was over at Fox Hills, and he had played, and then he sat down, and he was saying he wasn't feeling well.
Young guy.
He's like 56.
Oh, wow.
And so so he said he wasn't feeling well, so he stood up, and he got dizzy, and then that was it. He passed out. So they thought when they did CPR, and when the EMT got there, they had he wasn't breathing. And so the EMTs, paramedics came, took him to the hospital. So Saturday when I went to the park, there he was.
So he was alive?
He was alive. Said they had to revive him 8 times with the paddles. Ooh. But he didn't lose none of his capacity. Yeah. His heart is still a little weak. They had to put in a defibrillator, and they put in his heart because his heart was missing a beat. Wow. But young, 56.
So
that's
now
young.
He has that pacemaker.
He has that in his, and so he's rebuilding. He won't be able to play tennis for the next 6 months. Wow. But it was just a miracle to see him sitting there. I know. Because I had gotten a message that he was gone. Yeah. And then I was like, oh my God. And then I heard they had revived him. And then I heard that after that he was getting better. One of the guys FaceTime with him. But I was so surprised to see him sitting there, as all of us were. Yeah. And so we jumped up and ran and hugged him. And so he says he's doing much better. Totally changed how he eats.
That means his work is not done yet.
And that's exactly what someone said. Yeah. It just wasn't his time.
He's got work to do.
Yeah. So he lost weight. Yeah. But the interesting thing about it was we were at the park, I guess, sometime in December, and we were talking about big pharma, pharmaceuticals and the flu shot. And, sometimes, you don't know whether you're taking these medications for them to really do something for you or they create other problems, right? So we were talking about insulin, diabetes, because that's the first thing they diagnose us with, regardless whether we have it or not. And you get to a certain age, they immediately diagnose you with you need a blood pressure medication, no matter what's going on in your world, right? So we were having that conversation. Yeah. So he was like, "Oh no, you have to take your medicine, and you have to take your cholesterol medicine." And we're like, come on, dude. Yeah. And so he was adamant. Yeah. And then 2 months later, he has a heart attack. So I guess, his world and how he ate and so forth. But we were very happy.
Interesting.
To see that he is still amongst us because he's really, really a good guy.
We're happy to know that he's still around.
Yeah. Because
that could be tough. That could be tragic, super tragic.
Oh, yeah. He got a young daughter just going to college who he's so proud of. He's an amazing tennis player, his wife. And he's just a nice guy. Yeah. He heads up, or was the president. I think he's stepped back with the Kappas, with the young, the new Kappas coming in, helping grooming them in their fraternity. So he does a lot. He does a lot for the community.
That's good.
Just his organization alone does a lot for the community. Yeah. So we're still happy that his time on this planet is still needed.
That is good.
And he's out there shaping our young people's lives.
I like that.
Yeah.
So that was a good story. That's a good feel-good story.
Yeah, that's a good feel. So I tell you, February had its moments. Yeah. It had some good moments, right? So that was one of them.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool.
That's good.
So you just told me that the Hispanic Chamber wants you back?
Yes, California Hispanic Chamber. The National Latina Business Women Association. We're going to re-sign a contract for the next 7 weeks to teach small businesses and women, minority Latinas, how to become business ready, contract ready, and bank loan ready. Okay. And it's a 7-class series, so I'm pretty excited about it.
Okay. You're going to be super busy soon. You're going to be where I was last month, huh?
I'm going to be because that's going to be on Tuesdays. Then on Wednesdays, I'm going to be in Vegas for 8 weeks.
Okay.
Well,
not
every week. I go there every week.
Right.
You know, so that's another series right there. And then we're doing our mastermind.
Right, exactly.
You know?
But we can actually convert our masterminds. We can do this first one, and then we can convert it. We should be anyway. Creating an e-learning environment.
Right.
So that's what we need to be We have to work on that.
That will start on the 21st.
Right. Yeah. For our
21st or 22nd?
The 22nd, the Thursday.
22nd of February.
Right.
And for those of you who would like to participate, just give us a call. Crystal, what's the number?
The number is 323-906-7004. And you can email myself at cmitchell544@gmail.com or Gilbert at
the BuchananGroup.net.
If you're interested.
So make sure you call us and get enrolled, get set up, because what we're trying to do is to get you guys business ready. We want to show you how to obtain contracts with the state of California, Department of General Services, who is one of our sponsors here on the show today, along with Recycling Black Dollars and Small Biz Pro. So come and join this program so we can get you guys matched up with opportunities.
Exactly. This week, RBD had our breakfast mixer.
Yes, how was that?
It was really phenomenal. One, our resource guide is out, our new resource guide. So we had that blown up, and it was really great.
Excellent.
But we also honored, because it's Black History Month, and we honored our ancestors or who were here living, the founders of many of our organizations, including Recycling Black Dollars. We honored them as our now ancestors. And so what we did is we had other individuals that were very, very important in their lives to speak on their behalf.
Oh, that's good.
So it was really powerful. Yeah. So we did, obviously, Muhammad, and then we had Mr. Frank Dinkins, who was the father or the first member of RBD, first lifetime member, and he also funded the program.
Wow.
And he really liked Muhammad, and he liked what he was talking about. Mr. Dinkins was one of our legacy owners, business owners here in the community. So he owned, at the time, I think when he met Muhammad, he actually owned a gas station in Leimert. That was where his first business was. Right. Then he had a burger place. He kind of finished out his career. He retired, actually, last year. He had a furniture store. Yeah, wow. But very, very, had been in the community, been in business for over 50 years.
Oh, wow.
And then, so he spoke on behalf of Muhammad. And then we had Mr. Leon Gar, who, now I don't know if did you ever meet Mr.
I've never met him.
Have you heard of him?
I've heard about him, and I saw the write-up that they put in the newspaper about it.
Right. So you know what and this was just when he told his story. So he was 103 when he died, and he was still working. Still doing, and he set up a legacy. If you're on Gage and Normandy, that area, that whole block he bought. And so now his kids that's their legacy.
That's amazing.
But one of the things that Mr. Gard did was when Founders Bank, which is around the corner from here, when it was going under, they were talking about merging it with another white bank. And Mr. Gard said, no. We're keeping Founders Bank in this community. So they were saying, well, you need money. Yeah. So he said, no problem. Yeah. He wrote a check. He gave him a cashier's check for over $1 million. And they said, how you going to do that? He said, I'm going to write a check.
So then they're wondering, okay, is this check good? Is this a play check?
It was a real check. And so he resurrected Founders Bank.
That's great.
Yeah, so that's one of the biggest things. So he has a book out there called Men, Let's Go to Work.
Yeah.
And he talks about his long career. But one of the things he talks about is what we talk about all the time with Recycling Black Dollars is that he was saying when I first he had a grocery store, and he said people would walk past his store in order to go to get ice in the store next door. And then they would say, well, his ice is colder than yours. He said, it's absolutely impossible because we buy it from the same distributor.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was his skin, right?
Wow.
So we did Mr. Gar. We did... Bobby Glanton Smith, who wrote the book, he actually was the one that authored the book for him. And he Mr. Gar more or less adopted him in a sense. And so Bobby spoke on his behalf. And then who else? Marva Battle Bay Smith and so the whole whole crew from Vermont Slauson came out to talk about her. Yeah. And then Brenda Marsh Mitchell, who was the creator of the Taste of Soul. Oh. And that over the last 10, I think they've been around for 10, 13 years.
That's great.
They've had over 4 million people.
That was a good lineup that you had there.
It was. Yeah. And so everybody, we had a full house. Everybody came out. And so it was a great way to bring in or to honor Black History Month in our community. So that's what we did this week.
So it was a good week.
It was an excellent week. And then I came in today with my students. Yes. Whoa. They told me today, it's like, thank you, Crystal, for giving me a headache because payroll is beating them down to the ground. And I tell them, I said, if you guys would just stop overthinking stuff. Yeah. I mean, they add a whole other stuff into the mix. And,
are they ready?
Some of them are, but it's interesting when you want, and you probably see this as well when you're doing your classes, right? There are certain people that just pick up what you're doing like right away, right? And then others are like, oh my God,
it will take like 2-3 more classes for them to get it,
right? So and then with mine, so the QuickBooks itself. There's certain ones that have an aptitude for that. Yeah. But there was this one lady, she was completely confused about the regular QuickBooks, but the payroll, she impressed me today. She was the first one finished and ready to produce her paychecks, and she was on it. She was organized, and I was like, okay, you liking the payroll? She goes, yeah. The rest of them was like, oh, this is too. And of course, I'm making them do it manually, so calculating everything about it. So it's a lot, right?
Like our real accountants and bookkeepers do it.
Yeah, like the real deal. Right? So that's what and one girl said, is this what really happens? I said, this and so much more.
This is just the beginning.
So
that's good though.
We're pretty excited.
So they graduate next week,
next Friday. So they literally they're off on Monday. It's a holiday. Yeah, and then they have Wednesday, and then we have Friday, and then somehow or another I gotta. So I don't think they're going to be able to finish the whole practice set. So I got to get it piled as much. And it's been hard for them because I had to really just like compress everything into a 8-week period.
Well, we got to do what we got to do sometimes.
Yeah, so they got to rise. And I told them today, I came in and I kind of had a heart-to-heart with them why we were doing these programs and how important it was. And unfortunately for them, I was listening to Dr. Claude Anderson on the way to the class, and so I was ready when I got to the class. And so talking about, our communities and why we have to step up. Mm-hmm. And so, which next week I think we don't have a guest, so I think we're going to do it on his book, Powernomics. And so I got some amazing video clips that we can talk about, and really, because it really talks about the 5 levels of control. That we need to input. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to finish out Black History Month this way, and then next month we're going straight into the women. Yep. And powerful women. So we got a full calendar just about. Yeah. So it should be fun.
Yeah, a lot of people been calling, wanting to get on that list. They say, "Oh, how can I get on the show? I want to be there in March." Because March is for women, it's Women's Month.
I know. Well, but that's good, when we get to a place where people calling us to get on the show instead of me tracking people down to get on the show. That shows we're getting there.
Yes.
We're moving in the right direction.
We've almost arrived.
We've almost arrived. Yeah, so that's pretty. I like that they're calling us. And we're already. I think we still have the 16th and the end of the 31st that we need to fill up. Other than that, we got a full house.
I'll get you someone for that.
Okay, so so that'd be cool.
We'll get one of our mutual friends on there.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be really good. So Black History Month. So I got a video today. That's for Black History Month. So last week we talked. Who did I do? I did. We did Reginald Lewis. Reginald Lewis. So today. We're going to do Sarah Rector. And Sarah actually was the daughter of a slave. Mm-hmm. And she became the second billionaire black African-American woman in the country.
Really?
First one was Madam C.J. Walker.
How did she do that?
So when we run the video, you got it, Laurent? And then you will find out. Okay. And this is our Black History moment.
All right. That's real.
Good morning. My name is Jackie Brown, and I'd like to talk to you today about Sarah Rector. Sarah Rector was born to Joseph and Rose Rector on March the 3rd, 1902, in a 2-room cabin near Twine, Oklahoma, on the Muskogee Creek Indian allotment. Her family had been among 16,000 slaves owned by 5 Indian tribes in that area. As a result of an agreement between the Indians and the United States, the former slaves were allotted a plot of land, and Sarah and her family each received a portion of rock-infested land that was difficult, near impossible to farm. But what was meant for her bad turned out for her good. Rector's allotment of 160 acres was valued at over $556. Primarily to generate enough revenue to pay the $30 annual tax bill, her father leased an allotment to the oil company out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. In 1913, however, her fortunes changed when a wildcat oil driller produced a gusher that brought in over 2,500 barrels a day. Rector now received an income of $300 per day, which is about $7,200 in today's money. Rector received international attention at the age of 11 when the Kansas City Star in 1913 publicized the headline, "Millions to a Negro Girl," and the Washington Post in January of 1914 proclaimed, "Oil made a pickaninny rich." From that moment on, Rector's life became a cauldron of misinformation, legal and financial maneuvering. Sarah received much press and many requests for loans and marriage proposals, including 4 from as far away as Germany. Rector's guardianship was switched from her parents to a white man named T.J. Porter, an individual personally known to the Rectors. In the month of October 1913, Rector received a check for $11,567, which is equivalent to $276,926 today. She became so rich that whites said she must have some white parentage. Some even wanted her skin to be bleached so she would become white. She and her sister attended Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee. Her family moved to Kansas City, first living on the Paseo, and they later moved into 2000 East 12th Street, paying $20,000 for a stone and brick mansion, which is about $1 million in today's money, and it became known as the Rector Mansion. At one time, she owned the entire block. She also owned expensive cars and was said to have purchased a limousine, hired a chauffeur, and commissioned him to take neighborhood children to Crispus Attucks Elementary School near the historic 18th and Vine District. She dressed in fine clothes and jewels and furs. She raced around the city in either her Huntmobile or her silver-plated Lincoln. Officers would stop her for speeding, and defiant she would ask, "Do you know who I am?" Who she was the second black female millionaire after Madam C.J. Walker. In the end, she lost her money, she lost her high-flying friends, and she sold her mansion. Fortune had brought her millions, but gambling had taken it away. When Rector died at the age of 65, July 22, 1967, her wealth was diminished, but she still had some working oil wells and owned some real estate holdings. Sarah Rector was buried in Taft Cemetery in Muskogee County, Oklahoma.
It's very interesting.
I know. So things that you never hear about with that. And again, I mean, here you had a very person that That was by fate, right?
Yeah.
And so now but didn't know how to handle all that kind of money.
See, that's usually how it is. Most of us, we stumble across these nuggets on accident or because of necessity or something.
Right, exactly.
So,
yeah, we just don't. And who else could have actually helped her? Because there were no other millionaires that were black, and actually she was her parents had been slaves, and so they as it said that it had our weekly's calling, but that's for next week. She didn't have anybody to refer to. There was no financial, and I'm sure, someone white wasn't going to help her. I mean, because if that person who was their, her guardian, which I don't know why she had to have a guardian. She was worth millions. So you had to have a white guardian.
Yeah. That's paying it forward.
That's paying it forward. So, just a lesson in history, but our children need to know that.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best to start promoting this. Maybe we should post these on our site, too.
I will.
Make them available.
So you signed into it. Speaking of which, so we now have 7 new members in our mighty network.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I sent out a blast last week.
That's
so
beautiful.
We're going to build that, and you can put articles in there and post in there. So I'll give you the sign in. You actually can do it from where you are now because you got your own sign in, and all the shows will be hosted there.
Good.
But you will like this. So we can do classes in there.
Oh, beautiful.
And then those people have to pay. And that's how we get residual income from that network. So you like that,
That's great. That is great. Means I don't have to fly anymore, fly around.
That's what we're trying to do. Make a lot of residual income so we can work less.
Yeah.
I personally just want to go around the country speaking and getting paid big money. That's all I want to do. And then the show.
I hear that. I ain't mad at you.
And whatever platform we on. And then making our money from advertisement and sponsorship. So that's the goal. So we're going to take a moment, break time.
Sure. We'll take a quick break.
And then our guest is already in the house. He's got a very vast background, but he's here for one component of it today. But maybe he'll be encouraged to speak about his other life as well. So
he's fired up and ready to go.
I think he is. He's a speaker. He's always fired up to speak.
That's right. So if you're just tuning in, you're on the Business Zone with
Crystal
and Gilbert Buchanan, your small business paramedic. If you need to give us a call, our phone number here is 323-293-3375. That's 323-293-3375. Take a break.
Hello, meet Larry. Larry is a general contractor. Larry is very good at his craft, but Larry has a very tough time managing his paperwork because he is busy taking care of his clients' needs. Larry just cannot find his important business documents when needed. Larry is also being passed over for bid opportunities from prime contractors because he is perceived as not ready. He doesn't know where his business license, certifications, insurance, and other key corporate documents are located most of the time. Lucy owns an auto body and collision repair shop and has been using a business management and procurement assistance program called Small Biz Pro to keep her business organized, business ready, contract ready, and bank loan ready. Small Biz Pro is a 3-in-1 cloud-based business management, procurement, and market research assistance system designed to help businesses become business ready, contract ready, and bank loan ready. It also provides back-office operation solutions for small businesses. Lucy is able to stay ahead of her competitors because she uses Small Biz Pro to manage her business daily. Lucy just clicks on Small Biz Pro from her tablet, mobile phone, laptop, or any internet-accessible device for data retrieval, and she's got it. Lucy introduces Larry to Small Biz Pro, and now Larry is more organized and can now find all of his documents and new bid opportunities in seconds. Larry now saves $120 in labor costs for each missing or misplaced document. Just simply go to your web browser and log into smallbizpro.net and register today for a limited 30-day free trial offer. Services start as low as $1 per day. Let's put the competition out of business. Small Biz Pro. If you stay ready, you don't need to get ready. Register now at smallbizpro.net and begin saving money. Email info@smallbizpro.net or call 626-533-1186.
Each year, the state of California contracts for billions of dollars of goods and services. We as a state can and should leverage our spending power to achieve policy goals that help the people of California. One major policy goal we have is to create jobs and grow our state economy. Promoting the development of small businesses within California is a great way for us to do that, because California small businesses are the engine of economic growth. 95% of companies in California are small businesses, and with the right opportunities, these small businesses can grow to become the next Apple, Netflix, or Tesla. So let's all do our part to promote small business development and grow our state economy. Together, we can really make.
So, welcome back to the Business Zone. This is Gilbert Buchanan, your small business paramedic, and we've
Crystal.
got our wonderful co-host here, Crystal.
That's sweet. That's sweet.
And Crystal, who do we have in the house today?
Well, we have a good friend of mine, first and foremost, and then he also has written a book. So he's an author. He has multi books actually, but this is his latest book that he's written.
Wow! And
he has an organization as well. The focus is on helping our children stay alive and stay safe in this country.
That's good.
So he's written a book called Barbed Wire Souls, and he's going to talk about his book and what was the passion behind, and there's the book right there. But here's some numbers that will be interesting, that are interesting before I introduce him.
I like that cover.
I know, huh? Talented, huh?
Yeah.
The numbers in 2017, 1,129 people were killed by the police.
Wow.
48 of those officers had shot or killed before. 147 of those killed were unharmed. 86 of those 147 were people of color. And police spent seven times as many hours training to shoot versus training to de-escalate. So Greg Winston is a former juvenile delinquent who overcame poverty and crime-infested neighborhood and drug dealers to receive a college degree and work with Fortune 500 companies. The turning point in Greg's life came when his mother sent him to live with his grandfather. The lessons Greg learned on his grandfather's farm was life-altering. During college, Greg was asked to speak to a group of kids in a detention center. He told stories about his grandfather and how it changed his life. The experience started Greg on a mission to help kids reach their full potential. With the problems in the world today, Greg is even more focused on helping kids succeed. So welcome, Mr.
Thank
Winston.
you.
Glad to have
Welcome
you.
to the Business Zone.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that introduction. I hope we get that recorded so I can use it on another occasion.
Well, it is
definitely
recorded.
is.
Okay.
In fact, right at this present moment, it is blasting us live on YouTube. Being streamed live on YouTube and streamed live on our Facebook, his Facebook page and my Facebook page. So there's a lot of
very good.
That's good.
Social
I'm
media.
happy to be here.
And then we're going to give you a copy of it. I'll send you over a copy of it.
I know that you will. You're on it. This woman doesn't miss a beat.
Doesn't miss a beat.
Yeah, but I'm just happy she could be here with all the other stuff she's doing.
I know.
I'm just happy she's here today.
She's a superwoman.
Oh yeah.
Now you know why I'm her co-host.
Look at that! Just God gave me a gift. He gave me 2 couple skills. He taught me. He gave me the skill to speak, and then he gave me the skill to multitask.
Those are the 2.
So welcome to the show.
Some others as well. Welcome and congratulations on your new book.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that.
I really like that cover. So it's very attractive. It's appealing. It's pulling you in. It makes you want to open it to see what's behind there. So that's good.
So what is the background inspiration behind the cover?
Well, I don't know if you caught it right away, but that cover has an iconic photo on it. The photo that you're looking at, that's black and white, was actually taken in 1963. Here's why it's important. That photo was taken by Life magazine. It was the first time the police had actually been caught having dogs sicked on the citizens. Interestingly, it was a child they sicked the dog on.
Wow.
Life promoted that photo, went all over the world. It was the first time that the world could see how America treated their citizens.
Wow.
The result of that photo was the Civil Rights Bill of 1965. So that photo makes a lot of money every year. Let me just say that.
So it's got great results then.
Absolutely.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
This is amazing. So what inspired you, other than this event, these activities, inspired you to put together a book like this, of this nature, telling this story?
Well, first of all, let me say I feel like the timing is right for it. Mm-hmm. I have a phrase that I always use, and it's called fertilizing racism. Mm-hmm. There have been so many things now that are causing racism to grow that it's an embarrassment to where we've come from. If you look at that picture, Gilbert, of 1963, not very much has changed. No. If you really stop and talk to people, the change has been how they hide it. And with the new administration, we're seeing a lot of people that don't even hide it anymore. Mm-hmm. So I felt that the cover was timely.
They're being very overt about it.
Yeah.
Very.
Oh, actually, today when I was driving to the class, Dr. Claude Anderson, who we're going to speak on next week. So there's a couple of videos that you might find interesting. So he wrote his book Powernomics in 2013. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's 2013. But at the time, he went around the country speaking to talk about his book, right?
Okay.
So in it, he talked about how in a couple of years that the wave of conservatism was going to increase. And what really conservative means to them is preserving and conserving the status quo.
Yeah.
And when they made unearned income on our backs.
Yeah.
And so that they were going to be coming. Now, this was in 2013, that they were going to be actually, it was a lot earlier than that. This was another book. The earlier time, he said that they were going to become so overt that they were just going to speak it out in public on all mediums.
Yeah.
So it was like prophecy. So this is what's happening, because at that time we were doing Obama's, nobody was talking like that, right? But now, so I'll send the videos over to you guys, and we're going to do it next week because I was just like floored. And because it was like prophecy. It was eerie. Yeah. It was so to the point. So what you're doing here is very timely.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying that. And as you know, it's heartfelt coming from me, coming from the background that I came from and seeing it up close.
Have you experienced any of that yourself personally?
I have. And you know what's interesting about it for me is that I have been given tools that help me to cope with it without really knowing why I had the tools.
Right.
And without my grandfather, I feel like I wouldn't be here right now.
Right.
Because I've been in situations that could have gone either way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've seen it. And, the thing I'll say now is that when I look at what's going on in the world, I almost feel naive thinking that we had gotten as far as I thought we had. I feel naive.
Yeah.
Because when it hits you, you go, oh, my God, is that really the way you think? And I'm telling you, it's pervasive.
Yeah.
So
It is.
Yeah.
And a lot of this, they kind of store it away, stash it away until some opportune moment, and they spill it out. And when they do spill it out, we're looking at them like,
no, they didn't just say that.
You didn't just say that.
Right, exactly. In the very beginning, it was shocking.
Yeah.
And we were like, no, I didn't hear what I thought I heard. Did I hear what I thought? And then we'd get so outraged, right? But now, like everything else in this world, it happens so frequently that we're almost to a place of being desensitized. I mean, people are justifying why that they don't mean what they mean when they say what they mean. I mean,
or you didn't just hear what you thought you heard.
Exactly. Yeah, you didn't hear that, right? And why are you upset? They use it in rap music. Yeah. Right? So it's kind of interesting. So in the book, you're telling children how to stay away from violence. This is what the book is going to tell your audience, right?
Yeah, and that's part of it, Crystal, but there's a bigger message.
Okay.
To me, I'm trying to get back to what I'm going to call group parenting. When I was raised, I look back on it now, and it wasn't just one person who was totally responsible. My grandfather was sort of the kingpin of the family, but any neighbor would help raise me. You know, and let me.
And that was expected.
It was expected. So let me just break it down. My grandfather had a farm about a mile away, which was a neighbor. You know, their neighbors weren't close. About a mile away was Mr. Freeman. Yeah. When I went to Mr. Freeman's house, there was a certain way I had to act. Otherwise, Mr. Freeman would raise me, and when I got home, I'd be raised again, if you get that drift. And so part of the book has sort of a group parenting message. And it's not just the book. There's a website, bobwiresouls.com. And the reason I have the website is I'm now trying to collect group thinking so people can share with each other. A lesson learned in Alabama will be good in California. One that's in Washington will be good in Texas. So I just believe that in troubled times we have to come closer together. So that's part of the reason for the book.
Okay,
and you're absolutely right. You know, well, first of all, where I grew up, in a 4-block radius, everybody knew my mom, and if you were doing anything from school and walking to your house, then she knew about it before you got to the house. And consequences awaited you when you got home. And what I find today, which is very interesting, is that a lot of the parenting has stepped back. Because I was saying the other day, it's like, with this administration that we're dealing with, how in the world did these individuals live to be whatever age they are today and do the lying that they've done? I would have lost all my teeth and my life.
Well, I'm sure
the third lie I would have been in. It would have been done.
I'm sure they think it's necessary to do that. So,
but lying, you know, especially so blatantly and where it causes so much harm. And you can. My mom used to say, if you're gonna lie, you better make it a good one, and I better not figure out how and why you're lying to me. But they don't even do that. But what are we teaching our children? We're teaching our children that's okay, right?
Yeah.
And so, and you're also teaching your children to, just like you were saying, how do you communicate with people of authority? Because I don't have a problem if they're doing it on television and they're doing it on every reality show. I don't have a problem talking back to you because everybody else is doing it, right?
Yeah. Well, we've kind of fooled ourselves into thinking that we have that leeway. And the exercise that I'm seeing is that we don't have it. And because of that, it's causing death.
Right.
So, you know, and I don't want to overlook something that Crystal said. When she talked about the 4-block radius, that sounded like experience to me. Sounds like she'd been in a lot of trouble and she tested the theory. Is that how it sounded to you?
That's right. She tested the theory.
And
only a little bit.
Did it work for you,
my mama wasn't the type that you tested too many theories.
She doesn't allow any testing.
she didn't have a okay, this is your first time and you get 3 strikes. No, you 1 strike.
1 strike and you're out.
Done.
I'm just saying I detected a tremble in her voice.
I just, for my sister, she got in trouble all the time, man. But that, and my grandmother. Now, my grandmother was from the South, so your grandfather was where?
In the South, Arkansas.
And my grandmother's in Alabama. And I remember as a kid, we all went down there. I think I was about 9 or 10. We all went down there. And all my aunts and my mom was up at my aunt's house. And it was a big, huge yard between the two, right? My grandmother was a 7-day Adventist. And so Friday was a Sabbath day. That means the Sabbath Eve, right? So we were down in the house making all kinds of noises. We kept slamming the bedroom door. She came in and threw that door open with the long switch, and she just got to wailing on everybody. It was like 9 of us, and we went screaming. She's trying to kill us. What's going on? So no, my family didn't play like that.
I hear you.
But our children today, our parenting have. I have friends that have said that I don't want them to be disciplined like I was. I want to make sure they're free and that they don't lose their spirit. And at the same time, we're not really raising our children. The children are just kind of growing up on their own. Because I've seen some kids that they just go at it, and who cares whether it's the teacher or the parent or the priest or the whatever. You came to speak at some kids when I was doing an entrepreneurial class.
That's right.
And those kids, before you got there, they were a little wild, and we had to put some boundaries in place for them to respect.
Calm them down.
They were calmed over 12 weeks, and then when you guys came in with your story and his story, so tell your story because it's very powerful and very impactful.
Well, not a lot of people know me knew that I grew up in a impoverished condition. I was in Gary, Indiana, and during that time, it wasn't about the Jackson 5. It was about gangs invading Gary from Chicago called the Blackstone Rangers, drugs, fights. It was a tough time for Gary. My mom, picking up on that, sent me to live with my grandfather. Yeah. And that one move changed my life. That was the first time that I ever saw someone who was my color, who was totally independent, totally self-made. The people that I grew up around either had hourly jobs or they committed crimes to make money. Wow. So that was a stark contrast between my grandfather and the people I grew up around. The difference was I connected with him, and it caused me to look at life differently. It caused me to react to things differently. Without that, I don't know where I'd be. It caused me to have a deeper vision of what I could be. Right. I saw him, Gilbert, I'm thinking, well, if he could do that, then maybe I could do something.
That's right.
And so my whole life since that time has been about speaking to kids, doing things that help propel them to see what their full potential is.
Great. So how have you ever used the book as guidance in conducting workshops with these kids?
Yes, that's a great question. I'm doing that right now.
Oh, good.
As a matter of fact, the book has been outlined to have questions in after each chapter, because the thing that I found that helps me the most is doing a workshop and having the parent and the kid there, not just the child. The ability for them to connect and pair causes them to get greater traction quicker. And that's what I'm trying to do. Good. The book is written actually at a level where parents can read and understand and kids can read and understand. I'm just trying to create that conversation that they need to have.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Very good idea.
Well, Crystal mentioned something about how we raise kids today, and I want to tell you something that I've noticed. And I don't want this to put any shade on any of us. Kids are smarter than we were. My daughter, Gia, who's 16 now, has outdistanced me in a lot of areas at 16. And so the way that I'm trying to raise her right now, and you met her when we came to tennis, the way that I'm trying to raise her right now is through communication as opposed to being a dictator. We talk about things, we work on them, and I'm happy to say that she's a good child. She didn't get that way accidentally, and there were some times that we had that I think were tough. But what made it better is the level of communication. And I want to say before we go any further, the emphasis on telling stories to your kids creates a bond that's hard to break. My grandfather would tell me stories, and I got to tell you, I would be riveted by those stories, and that's how he taught. So
and
that's what I'm trying to do.
You remember it until this day?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like a song. You know how you hear a song, you can't forget it? A story has the same impact.
Especially if it's one that you hate. Then you hear that song playing in your head, then you find yourself singing it. You go, oh, Lord, now I'm singing this song I hate so much. But then you remember. So it's the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And every child is different. I know when my mom used that same communication, come to me, I don't care if it's good, bad, whatever it is, use that, come to me and let's have that conversation. So that door was always open, and that was very important when we were teenagers. But I have a middle sister who, I don't care what she is, just you would think we were raised in two different families. Because the same message was being delivered to all of us.
I have that in my family.
But she was not hearing it, and she was defiant, and she and my mom they went against each other all the time. And so you have to, when you're raising your children, you have to interact with them based upon their personality. And sometimes it's like a cookie cutter type of discipline, and it doesn't work the same way.
Absolutely.
With all their children. And when you look at minority kids, the way black kids are raised and Hispanic kids are raised and white kids are raised, I mean, there's certain liberties that did not take place in our family. Let's take the young man that did the shooting yesterday in Florida. His foster parents are saying, well, we had a gun. We told him it had to be locked up. But we gave him he had the key. But we didn't notice that there was anything wrong with him. How could you not notice that a kid that's moody and everybody at school figured that he was going to be the next kid to shoot up something? So how does the parents...
So everybody knew except the parents.
Everybody but the parents. How do the parents not know? This is your child. This is your child.
They were in denial.
Yeah.
They were in denial.
Yeah, in denial.
So tell us a little bit more about the book and how you use it as a tool to send that message to different groups.
Well, you're asking some great questions here, and let me give you a concept that came out of the book. The picture that you started the interview with, taken in 1963, was doing a demonstration.
Yes.
If you look at what's going on now, we've kind of evolved from demonstration to protest.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about it to me is that protests have not had the same impact as demonstrations. We got far more accomplished with peaceful demonstration than we do with violent protests.
That's true.
And somehow or another, we haven't picked up on it.
Right.
So let me say it this way. The best demonstration you can give is an ongoing demonstration to your child every day on how to act, how to conduct themselves, and how to learn.
Right.
So when I looked at what was going on in the world, that was one of the themes that I wanted to bring out in the book, that demonstrations don't really help.
Right.
Let me back up. Protests really don't help. It causes people to be hurt, sometimes killed, put in jail.
Right.
Peaceful demonstrations have gotten us as far as we are now.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good. And it's good that you differentiate between those two, because a lot of people, they think they're one and the same, and they're really not.
They're not.
Yeah, they're really not.
Yeah.
So a lot of what we're doing right now is we're doing the demonstration. You see what I mean? And people need to understand the difference between the two and decide which one they want. Because I see a lot of folks right now, they're protesting certain things. Some cases they're demonstrating, so they don't really, they get it jumbled. They don't know what the results is that they're trying to get. Like, for example, a lot of people talk right now about Black Lives Matter. And for some people, the message isn't being delivered properly. For some people, they don't have the right messenger to deliver it. For some people, they just think it's a bunch of people getting together and make a lot of noise because they need attention. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So we need to get that part correctly. So when we pitch it, you know, like when Martin Luther King did his, we knew what the message was about. We understood it. So we need someone like that, or, you know, may not be like that, but someone who can deliver that message. Because here's a typical example. Colin Kaepernick.
Kaepernick, yeah.
He's been misunderstood because the message that he's trying to deliver isn't the message that they're picking up on. They're picking up on him disrespecting the flag and the country and all. That's not what this is about.
I know.
This is about brutality, police brutality with minority people.
Yeah. You know, the sad thing is, no matter how people perceive it, I don't think that the NFL or the players have decided what they want from it. Go back to your earlier point.
Right.
The protests are the protests.
Yes.
You know, their talks, their interviews, nothing has an outcome.
Right.
I'll go back to one of the things that my grandfather used to say all the time, and I didn't really understand it at the time. He said, Lord have mercy, these demonstrations don't have a point.
Yeah.
What they should be demonstrating for is a better education.
Yeah.
You know, he had a way of going.
Yeah.
And he felt like that if you were better educated, you could make more money, you could leave those conditions.
Yeah.
But just to demonstrate for the sake of demonstration, not good.
Right, exactly. And in our community, it's about economics. So until there's enough money being recirculated back in our community where we have a voice, that we own something, so that we now have something, we can step up and say, wait a minute, I bought this building, and I have something to say. Yeah. And until you have those economics, you can't go to your legislature, to your political parties. Yeah. One, so you don't have enough money, because whoever is buying them is the one that has their power, right? Has the power over them. So until we're in a position that we get the fact that education is very important, taking ourselves from this level to this level is very important. But bottom line is, the first layer is the economics. Yeah. Until there's enough money where you can say, I want this, this, and this. I want legislation that will take care of this. I am not taking any handouts from anybody, because there is a misconception. Like earlier this week, Trump thought that the only people that were on the SNAP program or the EBT here is were black people.
Yeah.
And that's not the case at all.
Yeah.
In fact, 72% of the recipients of SNAP are white, poor white people.
Mm-hmm.
But immediately they assume that we're the ones on government assistance. We're the last people because you got to go through a process to be approved, and they don't even want to approve you.
Well, I want to say something because I haven't heard anyone bring this up as it relates to Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. But if you're really trying to understand Trump, it's the opposite. Mm-hmm. Whatever he says is exactly the opposite.
That's true.
So
it is.
If you get that, then you'll understand him.
You'll understand him.
So
you're absolutely right. So when you were doing the research for your book, what was the most startling thing that you came across?
Crystal, there were so many startling things. Let me start by saying that unreported deaths was a startling thing.
Really?
That we count, like you mentioned, about 1,100. There are far more than that. We tend to lock on to the ones that get the most publicity, but it's underreported. If they really knew how many deaths were there, everything would, break through. That's one startling thing. Yeah. Another startling thing is when you think about police killing kids, do you think a black policeman or a white policeman is more likely to kill a black person?
A black policeman.
I think it's a black.
Do you think that?
And we've seen it through history, too.
But you know what I found? It's by area. It has nothing to do with race. Mm. So here's another startling thing. You're far more likely to be killed in December than you are in May.
Why is that?
Why is that?
Just the conditions of shopping, the holidays.
Festive season.
Yeah. Or you're far more likely to be killed in Alaska versus Alabama or Arizona versus Mississippi. Wow. That blew me away.
Wow.
That the highest states for deaths are Alaska and Arizona.
I can understand the South because if you were born and raised and never left the South, especially if you're from a small town, you know your place.
Yeah.
And you know where to stay. The best thing about the South is you understand the racial issue there.
Yeah.
You are under no illusion that he loves you because of the color of your skin or he doesn't love you. You know exactly. Mm-hmm. That's what they used to say about George Wallace. At least we know he's a racist. So now we know how to conduct ourselves.
That's really reaching for a compliment, though.
But it is. But it's true, right?
That's true.
So in southern places, especially small towns, unfortunately, the blacks have been conditioned to know where they're supposed to be and their place and not to rise up. And I've seen it even in my family, and we're some pretty educated, outspoken individuals. My mom left the South because she said she felt she would have been dead before she made 25.
Oh, so
right? She left when she was because my mouth didn't come by nature; it came from her. And my cousins who stayed in the South, I remember when we went to visit, they were hey boy, how you doing? And I was a kid. I was like, and I wasn't even 12. I went. Mm-hmm. And the hair on the back of my neck. He's like, "Oh, hi, Miss So and So. How you doing, ma'am? What the heck are you speaking like that for?" And my mom looked at me and like, "Stop! Don't say nothing else."
Well, this is alarming. Do you know in corporate? I shouldn't say corporate America, but in the South, in corporations, they will still refer to their superiors as Miss Jane.
Really?
In companies, and I want to say Fortune 500 companies, but I've seen it
because they've been conditioned. To be very polite.
Rather than Miss Johnson, they'll say Miss Jane or Miss Bobby.
Wow.
Which is very subservient because that's from slavery days.
Yeah.
Right. So, but so I can see that now. Alaska, though.
Yeah, I didn't get that either.
Well, Alaska, and I've read a little bit about Alaska. If you've done psychology, you will understand a little bit about Alaska. Whenever the sun doesn't shine, it makes people feel very depressed. So Alaska sees sun 6 months of the year. And as a result of those things,
Yeah.
There's a lot of domestic abuse, high unemployment. So all of those things are factors that factor into those things. And that's why you see a lot more of those violence or those types of activities occurring. And then the police treat it accordingly. The suicide rate in Alaska is the highest in the country. Because of the fact that, psychologists say a part of that is because the sun comes out 6 months a year.
Wow.
It has a lot. If this light in here is dimmed, we wouldn't be very cheery and very happy
That affects
when we
your mood,
speak.
yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you go to those government hospitals, the lights are dim. People behave accordingly. So that has a lot to do. Think about it. Just think about it. You know, when you go to a lot of those government facilities, the lights are not bright and cheery and,
Well, and even in foster care and group homes and so forth and prisons, you're right. You're absolutely right. And
so
people
that
are
has
miserable.
a lot to do with the Alaska. Now, I'm sure there's some other factors too, but this plays a big part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're helping me with my vacation plan. It will not be Alaska.
Well, that one been marked off my list for forever.
Well, Sarah Palin came from her.
Yeah, I know.
So there you go. There you have it, right?
That's a star right there.
There's
That's
a star right there. So when you were writing your book, where did you do your research?
It was all over. Some of it was from experience, but there were several areas that I would go to. There's research done by a number of newspapers that the Harvard Review was another one, and there were several studies that were published as books that were written and studies. It's rampant. It has a high degree of interest for more than one reason, and the central reason is that if you look at the settlements that have been made over the last 10 years, it's over $500 million total. If you look at it, going back to, remember when Donald Trump targeted the
Central Park
5? That settlement was over $47 million.
How much did they get?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
That's the thing.
They were speaking this week as well because he made a comment, and I don't know if you've seen it on YouTube or you saw it on YouTube about the due process that he was talking about.
Yeah.
So the young man, one of the young men, the darker skinned one, oh my God, was he articulate?
He was very articulate.
Very upset, and he was saying, I was really insulted by that. But he said, if you wanted to do something for me, then when we came out of jail, I had no place to live.
Yeah.
And so why don't you just give me a place in your place if you were really that concerned about what you have done?
Yeah.
He says, so it's very hypocritical.
Isn't it amazing, him talking about due process?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why he was saying it, because nothing he's done is due process, right? So now he's talking due process because Mueller is like about to hang him. Now due process is important. But on that same note, and this was one of the statistics that I read, was that police spend 7 times many more hours training to shoot versus to de-escalate. And, earlier, it was last year or sometime, or I don't know if it was after the Ferguson killing or Philando or whichever, it's been so many of them, but they were saying that in target practice that, and I think this was on YouTube and Facebook, where they actually had a black face as the bullseye.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And that's what they're practicing to shoot.
Yeah.
So that's when their accuracy rate goes up.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this. Speaking of the training issue, do you have any idea what state does the most training to de-escalate? Utah.
Really?
And they have the lowest number of fatalities.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Yeah, you would think that more would follow that pattern because of the money we were talking about. If you look at the settlements, they keep going up.
Yeah.
But interestingly, they don't.
Wow.
So I thought that was really interesting.
And in your research, and that's a good point, because I've said that seems to me that training would be better equipped than spending. Do they have an unlimited fund of money that just pours in to pay out these settlements?
No, we're actually paying for that.
Yeah.
The citizens are paying for those settlements. And I think it'll reach a point where it's going to get the attention. It's like everything else. It follows money. When people get tired of spending $10 million and $20 million to settle this, then they're going to enforce the training laws. So I just think that it's on the way. But the reason that I wanted to write the book is that I feel like we can't wait on legislation.
No.
We have to go back to the way that we were.
Yeah.
And our parents' day, they knew that getting out of line would cause you to be hung or shot, and no one cared, and no one had a film clip of it, and no one could prove anything.
Yeah.
And they had a fear that caused them to bring everyone together and say, hey, this is what we're going to do when this happens. We're going to have to go back to that.
Yeah.
When I talked about the website and sharing stories, that was the reason. I think we can build a community that helps to save black and brown kids all over the world. But we can't keep going the way that we are and just hope that legislation is going to catch up. It's not.
When you conduct workshops,
Yeah.
How is the group comprised of? Is it African American, Latinos? Is there Asians? Is there Caucasians?
It follows the exact routine. I mean, it's the exact footprint. Largely African American, to a lesser degree, Latino, and very few Asians.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this: the first workshop I did was in Memphis, Tennessee, working with the Urban League.
Yeah.
And they collected the group. I had nothing to do with it. What I thought was interesting was that spread.
Yeah.
And the one constant was how the parents felt, the fear that I would see when I would talk to parents. So I'm just trying to bring that fear and cause an action rather than being fearful and being alone.
And bring a lot of their concerns to the table, to the forefront.
Yeah.
So that others and those decision makers know exactly what's being done.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys were watching which, I mean, we all did, the news over the last couple of days with the shooting in Florida.
Yeah.
There's that one mother.
Oh, my God, brought tears to my eyes.
Yeah, I know. And she was talking about her daughter that, I just went and go make funeral arrangements for her and, then start calling on the president to act.
In fact, some of the kids, and again, some very articulate children in that school.
Yeah.
But it was also a father. That his daughter was texting him during the process, and all of a sudden communication just dropped.
Yeah.
He said, "I have never been so terrified in my whole entire life, because one minute she's talking to me, the next minute I thought she was dead." And it turned out that the teacher...
Was she one of the deceased?
No, the teacher had told them all to shut their phones down, and she, the teacher was probably, everybody was in a heightened state, right? So she didn't get to say, "Dad, I got to get off the phone."
Yeah.
She just shut the phone. They just turned the phone off, and he didn't know what was going on and did not know. He had been texting her for about a half hour, and then he did not know until about 2-3 hours later, and he just knew she was gone. And so, but here's a question, and we can contemplate it while and go to break and come back. But when our children, now we're always afraid of our kids walking out the door. I know when my sister, when my oldest nephew leaves the house when he comes home from college, she is terrified. It's like when he's in school, when he's in Dayton, which was probably worse than here in Los Angeles, because there was a whole lot of stuff that took place that was racist. Yeah. But I guess because it was out of mind, she couldn't see it happening. Yeah. And then now he's in Houston, Texas, and so she's a little concerned there. We're very concerned if he talks about driving home from Texas to here. But I wonder so we're always in that state that when our children leave the door, are they going to come back in?
Yeah.
That's just the way we think. But when whites now see that they can send their children to school in the morning, assuming they're going to pick them up in the afternoon, that they're going to be there. But when these mass shootings are going on, are they feeling the same thing, or do they think this is just a one-off?
Well, the one thing I'll say is that everything that happens in the ghetto spreads.
It does.
If you look at the way that we dress, to our music, to drugs. Yeah. And if a light bulb hasn't went off in their heads, it should. Yeah. Because everything that happens in our neighborhood eventually gets to their neighborhood.
A lot of the style, the fashion, the slangs, you see it in commercials, you see it in movies, it infiltrates.
Yeah. The biggest thing was drugs.
Wow.
I mean, back in the day when Nixon was punishing people and they had all these different laws, they thought it was just relegated to this area. Now, all of a sudden, it's everywhere.
And opiates is a condition, a medical crisis.
Don't start me on that.
That's your next book, right? And the war on drugs, marijuana, was, and the crack that they brought in was, we've just got to arrest everybody. But now that everybody has an opiate problem.
You mean the condition?
The condition, the medical condition. And we're not connecting that it's illegal to shoot up heroin, to buy heroin is illegal. Yeah. So it's just amazing to me. Yeah. So we want to take a break and then we're going to come back to talk to...
Let's go ahead and take a break. This is very fascinating. I'm learning a lot and I'm delving deeply into your brain at the same time. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a break. You're on a Business Zone with
Crystal
and Gilbert Buchanan, our special guest,
Greg Winston.
Mr. Winston. So let's go ahead and take a break and we'll be right back.
Hello, meet Larry. Larry is a general contractor. Larry is very good at his craft, but Larry has a very tough time managing his paperwork because he is busy taking care of his clients' needs. Larry just cannot find his important business documents when needed. Larry is also being passed over for bid opportunities from prime contractors because he is perceived as not ready. He doesn't know where his business license, certifications, insurance, and other key corporate documents are located most of the time. Lucy owns an auto body and collision repair shop and has been using a business management and procurement assistance program called Small Biz Pro to keep her business organized, business ready, contract ready, and bank loan ready. Small Biz Pro is a 3-in-1 cloud-based business management, procurement, and market research assistance system designed to help businesses become business ready, contract ready, and bank loan ready. It also provides back-office operation solutions for small businesses. Lucy is able to stay ahead of her competitors because she uses Small Biz Pro to manage her business daily. Lucy just clicks on Small Biz Pro from her tablet, mobile phone, laptop, or any internet-accessible device for data retrieval, and she's got it. Lucy introduces Larry to Small Biz Pro, and now Larry is more organized and can now find all of his documents and new bid opportunities in seconds. Larry now saves $120 in labor costs for each missing or misplaced document. Just simply go to your web browser and log into smallbizpro.net and register today for a limited 30-day free trial offer. Services start as low as $1 per day. Let's put the competition out of business. Small Biz Pro. If you stay ready, you don't need to get ready. Register now at smallbizpro.net and begin saving money. Email info@smallbizpro.net or call 626-533-1186.
Each year, the state of California contracts for billions of dollars of goods and services. We as a state can and should leverage our spending power to achieve policy goals that help the people of California. One major policy goal we have is to create jobs and grow our state economy.
Okay. So we're back on the Business Zone with
Crystal,
Gilbert Buchanan, and our special guest,
Greg Winston.
Mr. Winston. And Mr. Winston is a phenomenal author, and he's done some amazing research in the minority and African American communities, learning a lot about trends, behavior, and certain lifestyle, certain activities, certain trigger points. And I think that this would be really, really valuable, not only for business, but also for the culture itself and for everyone involved in our community, like law enforcement. Now, I'm going to ask you two things. One, the first thing I want to ask you is to tell the audience again a little bit about your book, what inspired you to write it, and also, after you've done that, I'd like to talk about the fact that you said most of the training, one state in particular used training in order to minimize some of these activities, which will be Utah. So we want to talk a little bit about that and how that technique, that approach can be incorporated here in California with our law enforcement.
Okay. So first, let me address the book.
Yes.
The title again is Barbed Wire Souls. Mm-hmm. And when you go on Amazon, you'll see that cover that we put up of that black and white photograph against the color photograph.
Which is amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes.
The reason for the book is I'm really trying to get a collective effort started where we, one, teach our children through storytelling. And secondly, we share stories so that one family can help another family. Mm-hmm. So those are the two motivations.
Yes.
The second part of your question, when I started looking at the research, I was trying to find out who was actually doing something right.
Yeah.
so much when you look at psychology is about the bad stuff that happens in psychology, and that was my major.
Yeah.
So I took that same premise and said, let me find out the cities that are doing something right.
Yeah.
And when I really started to research it, it was other countries that were doing stuff right. Whether we were in Japan or in Europe, they've essentially taken guns away.
Wow.
And they've reduced fatalities.
Right.
I mean, you'll hear numbers like they'll have 2 deaths in a year.
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing.
And for them, that's high.
That's high. They want 0.
Yes, exactly.
And so the only state that I found that was actually doing what I considered to be worthwhile training was Utah.
Wow.
And their entire focus was de-escalation when there is a problem. If you look at the amount of hours trained on shooting here, it's about the same amount of hours they use in training to de-escalate there. They've just reversed it.
Yes.
So it's if you look at the math, it's 7 hours to 1 in an average day.
Right.
7 hours of training on how to shoot versus 1 hour on how to de-escalate, and they've reversed that.
You know what's amazing? I remember when I was in college, we were doing criminal justice. And there's a course that we were doing, and that was back in 1995. And one of the things that they were pushing a lot was community policing. And they're saying how community policing will bring law enforcement and the community together. People will work more efficiently. The crime rate will go down, which has been proven to be true. But I think even though that's known to be true, a lot of the decision makers do not want to deal with community policing because of what your research shows. Your research shows that many of the other states, they rather that the violent involvement between law enforcement and community, because to them that's their way of resolving it.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting that we can't get to the Utah approach instead of what we have here.
Well, I just want to say there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And the number one reason is it costs more. That's the number one reason.
Yeah.
And earlier in the conversation, we were talking about kids, and I openly admitted that my daughter was much smarter at 16 than I was. And
well, that's a fact.
That's a fact. And so what I want to tell you now is that I believe that in order for us to move forward, we're going to have to teach differently. We're going to have to parent differently.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I offer is that base of education from psychology. In fact, when you go to the website for Barbed Wire Souls, you can sign up and get a parenting guide. What I've found is that there are about 10 different areas that cause a child to change the way they look at life. So I've taken the concept, which is psychology-based, and then I've put some what I call everyday language so people can understand it.
Right.
So let me just give you an example of that. One of the first tools that I talk about is a psychology term called a scotoma. A scotoma is a learned blind spot.
Yeah.
So what it means is that the older you get, the less you see.
Right.
But not because your eyesight is bad.
Right.
When you see something that looks familiar to you, you don't look at it very long. Because a child looks at things longer, they see what we don't see.
Right.
So here's how it affects us. There are ideas all around us, but we don't see them because they look kind of familiar. And so we never take full advantage of what's in front of us because the scotoma, the learned blind spot, is something that we create.
Scotoma.
Scotoma.
S-C-O. Oh, see?
Well, they spell it with an O or an A.
Oh, okay.
I had a doctor correct me. I said S-C-A-T-O-M-A. He said, no, S-C-O-T-O-M-A. So scotoma. But in any way that you spell it, it means that we have a blind spot. There was a guy who was married to Jackie Onassis. His name was Aristotle Onassis. And he made a comment that I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
He said, all great wealth is dependent on you seeing something that no one else sees.
Right.
Okay?
That's where
that's
entrepreneurship comes in.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that if you start teaching your children how to really look at the world, they will see stuff that they like and turn that into something that could help them throughout life.
So they minimize the scotoma.
Yeah. So when they went, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
He's dropping pearls here. Ladies and gentlemen. They minimize the scotoma.
Yeah.
So one of the documents that you download explains that, and there are 10 of them. But I picked this one because it is so pervasive.
Yeah.
It's every day. It's like, what did I see coming here that could turn into a business for me?
Yeah.
What did I hear that I pretended not to hear that could cause me to excel?
Yeah.
When you look at people who are wealthy, to a person, they saw something that no one else saw.
Yes.
Look at Jobs.
Yes.
Look at Bill Gates.
Yeah.
There was a brother who was one of the first billionaires that came along in the 80s.
You talked about him, right?
Reginald.
Yeah, I did a thing last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just saw it differently.
Yes.
So when you look at people who are creating great wealth, they only get it a few different ways.
Yes.
They commit a crime. They see something that no one else saw, or they inherit it. That's it.
That's it.
You know, I would like permission from you to use your name when I quote the scotoma in my workshop.
Absolutely.
Because I'm definitely using it.
Yeah.
Because actually it falls so well into our business entrepreneurs because they never see, and I was just telling Gilbert this, when I being an entrepreneur and he being an entrepreneur, we can see such opportunity when someone mentions something and I'm already, or even when I sit down and coach someone and they're telling me the type of business they have, and then they're, wherever the level is, and I'm thinking, okay, if I was running this business, I would do this, and this, and this. And then when I say it, they're like, you don't even know my business. How did you do that?
Yeah.
Because I see something. I'm not just looking at the regular, just what you see in front of me.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the potential.
The blind spot is diminished.
I look at the broader picture, and most people just look at what's here. And unfortunately, our children today with social media, being what it is, they're completely fixated on that screen and whatever that screen, which is how Trump got in office, because whatever that screen tells you, I don't go beyond that to think how realistic it is, or if it's real, it's real, right? I mean, if it's fake or real, I can just see it here and I go, oh, okay, and then I don't go, but let me delve a little deeper and see exactly how you made this happen.
Well, just because Gilbert and I are old friends, we've been friends now for about 30 minutes.
That's right.
So because of that long-standing friendship, if you email me, I will email you some exercises to use in your workshop.
Oh, I love
And there are
that.
a series of pictures, they're word phrases. It's amazing.
Yes.
Because what you'll do when you show people a scotoma, you'll hear them go, oh, I mean, it's a guttural reaction that something's right in front of you and you don't see it.
You don't see it.
And life is like that.
Is that why when you go to, is it psychologists or psychiatrists, that they show you those images, right?
Yeah.
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 So you can see beyond that. Right.
Because they show you something looking like a butterfly. Oh, that's a butterfly.
Because you're just looking at it face value and not looking. But little children.
Yeah.
It's like the creativity gets pushed out by the time they get to 5 years old.
The older you
but
get.
Jill was probably much more creative when she was little because they could take a box and it become a whole kingdom, right?
Right.
And then, but as you watch your children grow older, then their creativity minimizes with their age, right? Because
that's exactly right. Well, you'd have to see her art now from the time that you first met her until now. You would say, oh my God, it's just leaps and bounds.
Right.
And so you know what we were talking about here, and I get excited when we start talking about this. I know just enough psychology from that inferior education I got at the University of Arkansas to be dangerous.
Yeah.
And these 10 steps that I'm talking about can change a person's life.
Wow.
I mean, just that one thing to get a child to see differently, monumental.
I would love to incorporate that in our workshop.
Yeah. I think once you start getting, I want all of you to get the parenting guides that I'm going to be sending out. Because I really think that because kids are smarter than we were then, it's not just raising them the way we were raised. It's raising them and teaching them a different way at the same time. I mean, it's big. I know plenty of good parents that would benefit from this. Has nothing to do with whether or not you're a good parent. It's taking it to the next level.
And teaching your children how to, and it helps when they get to college, and it helps when they become business owners, right? Because, or any employees, but you hopefully they're going to become business owners. But helping them to learn the disciplines. Because a lot of times our children today are very impulsive. And they don't think things through. So, but here, when you're doing this and even teaching them how to interact with the keep safe,
Yeah.
It's not just safety here, it's just safety in real life. My brother-in-law makes a comment that, my brother-in-law makes a comment that there should be a YouTube video that the things that we got was common sense because our parents taught them or they were taught in school. Our kids today don't have that, right? So, and a case in point were the students that I teach the QuickBooks class to. Now the youngest is probably 24, 25. So I'm doing the payroll, right? And I'm talking about federal withholdings and state withholdings, things that are coming out of their check. And last week I was teaching them how to calculate their hourly wage based upon the number of hours. And they're looking at me like this was a foreign conversation I'm having. But everybody in this class has had a job. But that means they don't understand anything about their checks.
Well, I want to say this, and this I have two things to say that are going to cause your listeners to be upset. Some of them. I have no faith in the school system today.
I agree.
Oh, yes,
I
horrible.
agree.
My daughter is homeschooled, and one of the best moves I've made was sharing that education with her. My focus is to teach her how to learn, not just have her remember some stuff for that time being. I'm trying to teach her how to learn. Yeah. And the other thing kind of flows back to the book, and I want to say this, and I hope it does make some people mad. We've been searching for years for equality. I've heard people talk about it. We've demonstrated for it, and I'm saying it's the wrong way to go.
It is.
Do you know what people understand? They understand dominance. They don't understand equality.
That's true.
And I'm going to tell you how I found it out.
Yeah.
Years ago, when I first got notoriety for playing basketball, I went from being one of those black kids over there to, that's Greg Winston. And because I was good at something they weren't, it was a form of dominance, and they understood it. When I went to Xerox and my sales abilities increased and I led the branch, that was a form of dominance. So let me just say this. You can name any singer, any actor, any business person you know who is dominant in their field, and they don't care what color they are. So we need to stop thinking equality is going to help us. It doesn't. Equality is not equal.
Well, I think that's the worst.
That's a great concept right there.
I mean, they said that segregation was probably the worst thing that could have happened to us because, one, we lost our identity. And we wanted to be accepted. And we still today we're doing everything for them to accept. We really shouldn't be pissed off or upset that they are getting the wrong message about Colin Kaepernick. It's not about them. But what it is about is that those owners of those teams, I think it's like 70% of the football league is black. If every last one of them walked off the field on a Sunday,
there'll be a lot of hurting owners.
There would be a lot of hurting owners. But they have to be willing to make the sacrifice. But if all 70 of us walk out, I bet you they'll make some changes. And they won't be over there saying, because they're not going to fire you. Because who else they gonna get to go play ball like you?
It's just like many years ago when they had the strike.
Dominance, right?
You remember when they had the strike with the referees and they bring in those temporary referees? And they couldn't make good calls and all that. The thing was in a disarray and all of that. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. When you're good at what you do, if they could replace black athletes, period, do you not think they already would have? If they had other nationalities and other people, white people, that could play ball and make them the kind of money that they make, they would have already replaced us.
That's true.
Right?
This is such a great show right here. I'm loving this. I am loving this so much.
But we have to learn to love us. And we have to learn to know what we bring to the table. Nobody gave us the talents that we have. Those are God-given. He gave them to us. But we don't understand our value. So I've told people...
That's why we're looking for equality.
Equality, right? So I've worked for people and they wanted to corral me in. And one guy I remember specifically, he was a friend of mine. And he asked me to come work for him to help him out because he had stepped out on his own. And then he was trying to control me. Whoa, dude, I am not your employee. I am a contractor. And so then he says, well, I'm going to hire somebody else. Go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
I make more with my one contract on Friday than I make with you if I'm here every single day.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So he did it. So he went to hand me a check. I said, I don't need your check.
Then he called you back later on.
No, I gave him his check back.
Yeah.
I said, thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah.
And you will never have to worry about asking me for anything.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm about to discuss now is the opposite of this.
Yeah.
I'm talking about people who don't have a healthy self-image.
Yeah.
So
they have to get it, man.
Let me say this.
So how do they get it? How do they get to be like me?
One of the problems that we faced and our kids face every day is that we let people who are not experts determine what our self-image is. Mm-hmm. The way they talk about us, the way they demean us has an impact on us. Mm-hmm. And we begin to believe the rhetoric. We think that what they're saying is true. And here's why. Every person alive has about 50,000 thoughts a day. And when you look at those thoughts, a greater percentage of those thoughts are negative than positive. Yeah. Experts say about 90% of what the average person thinks is negative. Mm-hmm. So when a person says something about us, it's not that they said it, it's that we keep repeating it in our head. And as we repeat it, we begin to believe it. Yeah. The greatest example of a person who didn't do that was Muhammad Ali. Mm. I've had an occasion to meet him 3 different times. Yeah. 3 different times. And I'll never forget the first time I saw him. I was stunned. Not because he was Muhammad Ali. Mm-hmm. I had never heard a black person talk like that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was shaking his finger in people's face and telling them who he was and how great he was and what he was going to do. I went, oh, my God. I'd never seen anything like that. It changed how I looked at myself. Yeah. It was just amazing to me. Yeah. So when I'm saying about self-image, here's the perfect example that we're talking about. This lady has a very healthy self-image. And that's what we should aspire to with our kids. Yeah. And whether it's complimenting them or showing them what they don't see, getting them to weed out the people they think are experts and showing that those people don't know what they're talking about, that self-image causes everything that flows in your life. It's how you feel about you that causes you to succeed.
See, everything we're talking about here today, it's all connected.
Yeah.
It's all connected. From the scotoma to what she just said, what you said about Muhammad Ali, they all come together. Because if we can't assert ourselves, we can't be confident about what we do. In order to be confident, you got to have that scotoma, right?
Right.
You can't see all these other things that they're trying to put out there to try to keep you down. You got to say, hey, I'm blocking all of that out.
Well, I'm going to say this, Gilbert. The book is one thing, and I'm here to talk about the book, but I got to tell you something. The ancillary products around the book and the community I'm trying to create are bigger than the book.
Oh, yeah.
It's like when I talk about the website, I'm praying people go there and download that.
Maybe you should tell them again what the website is.
It's barbedwiresouls.com. So just the title of the book, .com.
barbedwiresouls.com. I'd like you guys to check it out. This is phenomenal. I'm loving this.
Well, here's what I want to say. Those 10 elements, when you talked about connectivity, all of the elements connect.
Yes.
If you use those 10 ingredients, you will cause a change in your child. So let me give you another one, just so that we stay on track here.
Yes.
The greatest motivating factor that we have is something called dissonance. D-I-S-S-O-N-A-N-C-E. Dissonance is a musical term. It means disharmony. So here's what's happening. Our brains are automatically converted to want to get things back to normal. When something's out of pocket, we want to put it back in pocket. That, if used properly, is the greatest motivating tool. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that Gilbert's driving around on Sunday, and he passes a lot and it has Teslas on it. He said, I've been thinking about that car. Let me just go check it out. They said, why don't you just take it around the corner? So he gets in the car, and the first thing he notices is that he doesn't have to start it. He puts it in gear, and it takes off, and it's quiet. He turns on the stereo and gets the sound going, and he's driving around hoping that you see him, and he's driving hoping that all his friends see him. He drives the car, and he feels everything about the Tesla. He brings it back and says, I'm going to think about it. When he gets back in his car, what happens? it doesn't feel the same. He's going, wait a minute, I'm hearing too much noise here. And I got to crank this to start it. Oh, my God, what work that is. And all of a sudden, he starts thinking, you know, I deserve a Tesla. I should have a Tesla. Okay?
That's dissonance.
So dissonance is that disharmony that you feel once you see a higher level. So here's what I'm saying to parents. Sit with your child. Find out what they're interested in and paint that picture so dissonance is created every day for them. That every day they're trying to get to where you have taken them to mentally. And that space between where they are right now and where they want to go is dissonance. And with 50,000 thoughts a day, no one talks to you as much as you talk to you. And that's what motivates kids. It's not, I'm going to tell you to do this and you're going to, that's not it. I mean, you can use some of that, but that's not what's going to drive your child. What's going to drive your child is getting them to use those 50,000 thoughts in a more positive way, going somewhere. So when you talk about connectivity, every one of these 10 elements are connected. And if you use them right, it's going to help your child to reach their full potential. That's what I'm trying to get to with this book.
I did tell you he's also a motivational speaker.
I just got motivated even more right now.
In fact, I have to say, before we got here, Gilbert was sitting going,
I was falling asleep.
I'm going to fall asleep. And usually about this time, he is like over there, you have gotten him completely captivated. And he ain't did like
I'm
this.
awoke.
You awoke. He's been motivated.
Funny.
But you're so right. So in this book or in the parenting skills, so since we're dealing with police brutality and so forth, so is there a conversation that a parent is going to learn to have with their child on how to stay safe once they leave the house?
Absolutely. So let me go back to the book.
Okay.
I want you to just picture this. I'm in farm country with my grandfather. And my grandfather owns a horse that is a stallion. It was all black and had one white spot that you could barely see. And he had a very exotic name. His name was Walter. The name of the horse was Walter. But when you saw this horse, I don't know how they measure him, their hands or something. He was a really tall horse. And he was all black. Now, during that time, many black people didn't have horses. It was unusual for a black person to own a horse. My grandfather had several, but this was his favorite. So we're riding, and I'm on this swayback gray mare, and my grandfather's on Walter. And we're laughing and talking, we're riding, and, hours go by. And we ride over into a different county where he was not known. All of a sudden, there's this truck that comes down the road. And in the country, when you're in a truck, dust flies everywhere. Okay, so this truck pulls up beside us, and there are two white guys in it. There's a rifle rack in the back. They have on short-sleeve shirts. One of them rolls the window down and leans his head out and looks at my grandfather and says, "Say, boy, who that there horse belong to?" And my grandfather said something that still burns me. He said, "Yasser, boss, this here horse belonged to Mr. Freeman over in Varner County." And he kind of nodded his head when he said it. And the guys looked at him and says, "Well, you tell him that's a mighty fine horse." And they pulled off.
Wow.
And I rode up to my grandfather. I said, "Why are you talking like that?" I still get emotional about it. He says, "Son," he got down off the horse and came over to where I was. He said, "Son, I don't have but one job. My job is to make sure you're safe. Those people would not be happy if they knew I owned that horse. But you know what? It doesn't hurt me to tell them that I don't own it because it keeps you safe." Now, if I told them I owned the horse and got indignant, maybe I'd have to fight him. What would happen to you? He said, "I don't have but one job." And he got back on the horse. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I learned from that. I remember years later when I used to dabble in vintage cars, and I bought an old Mercedes. I fixed it up, and I bought another one. Finally, I got to an SL. This was back when I was working at Xerox. And I drove that convertible in the first day. I'm so happy. And as soon as I walked in, someone asked me, "Is that your car downstairs?" And they had that puzzled look, like, could that possibly be your car?
Did you immediately remember your dad?
Immediate. You know what I said? I said, "Man, I can't afford a car. I'm just testing it." I had a Chevy also. I drove that Chevy from then on. They wouldn't have been happy for me to own that car.
No.
So
is that the opposite of dissonance?
It's the opposite. So here's what I'm saying. You'll probably remember that story.
Yes.
So when you tell stories to your kid, they're going to remember. Mm-hmm. So what I'm doing with the book is I'm sharing various stories so that people can understand this is the best way to teach.
Yes.
And guess what? When you teach, your child becomes closer to you.
You know what's amazing?
What's that?
That's exactly how I teach my workshops, telling stories.
You got to do it.
I'm a storyteller.
You got to do it.
And what you're saying right there is so true. It's really connecting.
Yeah.
Because you notice you got my attention here. I'm paying close attention to the things you're saying. And they make a lot of sense.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Because we know how it is. You know, as soon as we start elevating, we start getting some prominence in life, there's someone out there trying to knock us down.
Yeah.
So then if we don't make it look like we're doing that well, then they'll go, okay, he's not a threat. Let's continue.
But that's why there's certain black people that white people like, oh, just like Greg said, you're the N word until they get to know you and bring you into their circle. Yeah. And then you're Greg Winston, right? Yeah. And they won't let anybody harm you. Yeah. But if you step outside of that, then you're going back to that place again, that you're them. In fact, it's so interesting with the Dreamers, and that the ICE is rounding up people. So there was this town, I think in Texas, the sheriff it's a small town, so everybody knew everybody. So they embraced their Hispanics, and they're part of their churches and schools and so forth, right? So they start rounding them up. And so now the sheriff is like, wait a minute, why did you take him?
Yeah.
Right? No. And his son.
He's one of our good ones.
That's one of us. One of the good ones, right? He's not like them.
He's one of our good ones.
Right. So now they're upset.
Yeah.
Because they didn't take in someone that they knew. Mm-hmm. So when they were thinking of it, they're thinking of a big, broad mass of people that have pitchforks and knives that are about to kill them in their sleep. Yeah. But Hector over here wasn't that one. No. He was somebody else. Well, we're all the same people.
Yeah.
But that's what that is, right?
I have to tell you this. When I was first starting to write the book, it occurred to me that my grandfather was a landowner because when I would visit him, he actually had sharecroppers. Now, just imagine that, a black man in the South who had sharecroppers on his property. Yeah. And so I asked my mom, how did we get land? You know, because after the emancipation, we couldn't own land.
We didn't get our 40 acres and a mule.
No. Right. So it was interesting to me that my grandfather's last name is Cook. Mm-hmm. My great-grandfather was actually a cook. When the emancipation hit, most slaves took the name of their skill. Yeah. And so my great-grandfather was a cook, and he was in the house. I won't say what they called him, but he was in the house.
Right.
When the emancipation hit, the owners, who were Thomases, loved him, and they helped him to get 40 acres, and they helped him to finance it. Well, when my great-grandfather died, my grandfather worked hard and bought the land. And that's how he got his first 40 acres, and he grew from that. Wow. And I thought, wow, that was just amazing. By the same token, you talk about siblings not understanding. I had an uncle who was my grandfather's closest brother, Uncle Lucas. Yeah. And he asked him if he wanted to buy the land. He went, no, I don't want to buy any land. Yeah. And as a result, Uncle Lucas ended up living on my grandfather's farm. In another house, my grandpa had like 4 houses on his property. Wow. And one of them was for Uncle Lucas.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
We definitely got to bring you back on this show.
I know.
We got to bring you back.
I'd love to.
And then I've actually talked to Felicia when she comes back. She's here. There's a number of other shows here at the studio.
Yes.
There's a show called Ride Along. They're police officers.
Yes.
Okay.
2 of them, they're having conversation about what's going on in the community.
Podcasting.
And then there's some other shows that this would be very beneficial.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've already talked to her about it. And her show. She does like a unsung type of show.
Oh, okay.
And so
you might want to think about it, because what you do, you story tell. That's an art that's missing, because like you said, going back to your dad and your grandparents,
that's how African ancestry.
Yeah, that's how it used to be back in the day. They story tell.
Yeah.
And we walk away with a lot of nuggets from those things. And it guides us in the way we live.
And people remember.
People remember.
People remember. I mean, just like you told the story about Marcus Garvey last week.
Exactly.
I'm sure someone in your family,
yes.
he's from Jamaica, someone in your family told you the story of Marcus Garvey, because that's a hero in your country. And he's told it so vividly, you could actually feel the emotions that I'm sure you felt when you were a child when you heard that story.
Definitely. Because and another beautiful thing about that, and I'm not sidestepping the show here, another beautiful thing about that, he's from an indigenous people that I'm from also.
Okay.
The Maroons.
Right. Yeah, you had told the story about the Maroons. Group. Yeah, that's the same one.
So it's the same thing with your storytelling. It's just amazing. Mm-hmm. So,
well, those are people that remember.
We want to do some more of this.
Well, actually, we can probably help him get into. I have a lot of, being a CBO in the community. Yeah. So a lot of the youth programs, and I do. We do the entrepreneurial program. Yeah. But we reach to those organizations in order to get our kids for our Nifty classes. So we do. I have some good contacts with people that got young youth programs.
Oh yeah, I'd love that.
That you can have that, and then maybe having that town hall kind of meeting where they're coming in with their kids and having that kind. I know you did that over at the Boys Club, but I have another friend that has a connection with the Y right over here. Okay, he's on the board, so he can actually get you over there. So we can take you up higher to get to the people in the room.
I'm up high right now.
To make that happen.
Did you invite him to the Recycling Black Dollars breakfast?
Well, he lives in Dana Point. Oh. So by the time he get up here, he'd have to come up here the night before. Yeah. He's way down there in Dana Point. Yeah. You're like another county, man. I went to
I can't wait to get those 10 points that you're talking about. I can't wait to get them. And with your permission, I'd like to infuse some of that in my workshops. Yeah. Maybe not all of them, but, I want to put some, like the scotoma definitely got to be there.
Yeah. Definitely. We're going to get you in there at that right away.
And I want you to see how I use it so you can have an idea how it's being used. Yeah. To see if it's being misused, like malpractice, professional malpractice, So I would love that.
We'll get you started on that. Would be great.
Yeah, I would love that.
When you're talking about dissonance, have you read the book that's by Dr. Joy DeGruy?
No, I haven't.
Cognitive dissonance, and she's talking about
cognitive dissonance.
Yeah. So she's amazing at when she does it's on YouTube. She does a speech in London, and she's talking about that and how white people, they perceive things the way they want to perceive it. Yeah. Right? And then black folks perceive things the way they want to perceive it. And you're looking, she's amazing all by herself. But then when you look around the room and she's having a car, and there's only one black person in the room besides herself, and the faces are like, it's just because it's starting to sink in and you see it. Yeah. So it's really an incredible speech that she does. Yeah. But everything that she does is just.
Well, I'll tell you the thing that I like most about this is that it's founded. The basis of all of this that I'm talking about is psychology. It's the positive side of psychology. Mm-hmm. So people have known about dissonance for years, but it's always been viewed as a negative. Yeah. And so the terminology I try to use is how can we make this work for us? And you'll see that in some of the tools I'm going to send you. It's boilerplate psychology, but I'm breaking it down to a conversational level so that they can then put it in play.
At what point in your career did you realize that you can use the platform of psychology to do storytelling? Because that was a key connecting point right there. Yeah. Psychology with storytelling.
So my second year in college, I had a professor that I complained to that everything he talked about was negative in psychology. Yeah. And he said, well, let that be your assignment. I went, what? He goes, to find the positive points of psychology. And that's what started me. So to answer your question, the first time I used it was when I was asked to speak to a group of kids. And I thought I was going to speak to regular kids. And where they took me was a juvenile detention center. And so I'm scrambling now because I felt unprepared. Right. And so what I told them was the first time I'd ever been arrested and taken to juvenile detention center. And it broke the ice. Yes. And so then I started reflecting on the tools. Yeah. And from there, I started to volunteer to speak more, and I started preparing. What am I going to talk about? What am I going to use? And that's where these 10 steps came from.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So...
more I listen to him, man, it's like, wow.
Yeah. So Gilbert, it came from crime. That's where it came from.
which can be a good place sometimes.
Can be a good place.
But sometimes it's a great elevator because you're already at the bottom, man.
Right,
you exactly.
Go up to the top, exactly. Right? Because when you get to that point, your back is against the wall. You know you need to go up. What do you do?
Right, and if you're at you're just tired of being in this place, then that's the next step. So, Greg, where do they find barbed wire soles?
It's on Amazon. Just get on Amazon, search for barbed wire soles, Greg Winston. It'll pop up.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And the book is one thing, but I will also say I'm really trying to build a community of people who are like me, who care about the future, and are trying to help kids, whether they're your kids or not, doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Whether black, brown, or green, I don't care. It's just
their kids.
We're trying to help enforce a different future, and that's what I really like about this whole thing.
Crystal, I'm thinking, when we do some of our workshops, would be nice to have him come in like a guest speaker to talk about these things and how we can intertwine it into entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
Yeah, I know. And I actually had him come talk to our kids, the Nifty Kids, when we were doing our entrepreneurial. And then the kids that we hand selected. And then when we went over to Dorsey, I had him come over there. And there was 2 people that after the end of the 12 weeks program, I asked them who was the most memorable speaker, and Greg was one of them.
Sure.
And then one of my mentees who had been in prison for 15 years, he kind of topped your story because he went in as a drug dealer.
He can have it if he had to go.
He went in, he got busted because he was a mixologist, as he called himself, and he came out with a business.
Yeah.
And he has just elevated himself to such a level, but he spoke real, and Greg spoke real. And those kids at Dorsey,
that's what they want.
Were like.
They don't want that artificial stuff that we've been
and they had been
there.
They weren't just talking from a book or something they had heard. They actually had experienced it in life. And so the kids today, they want authenticity.
Yeah.
They want you not just be talking something that you read. They want you to have lived the life that they live, or heading down that path that they're heading down, so that they can see that you elevated yourself up.
Yeah, that's very true.
And give them a course on how you do that. So again, we want. Look at that already, 5 o'clock.
I know.
We should do this every day.
We should, man. Because I know there's more chapters there that we can
I actually told Greg, I don't know, he wouldn't come up here, but you should really think about your own podcast down in your area.
Yeah.
I think it would be great. It would be a great way to get your message out and build that community that you're looking for. Because they will come to you. And parents are seeking. In fact, when he called me about this, it had just been on Good Morning America. They had highlighted 3 different Facebook pages that they created this membership. One was single dads raising their own children. One was moms with their kids, and then parents. And they were talking about what it is into this day and age to raise a child and how difficult it is. But they had each other to reach back to. So that community and this conversation is definitely timely. And I think a lot of parents would feel a lot more at ease to know that I've prepared my child to leave out of this house and then come back here and grow to be old and give me grandkids.
Do you have a publicist?
No publicist.
You probably need a publicist to get you on some of these shows, because this is stuff you should be on The View, Good Morning America talking about, because this is needed in a lot of ways.
What's the young lady that came in with Dewey Books?
Yeah.
I can't remember her name. She gave you her card?
I think we've got her on email, so let's connect them.
Yeah, because she was really good. She had good. Him, and he was from back east somewhere. Yeah. And she, there's also, I think she still has booths. Dr. Rosie Milligan. She has a book expo that is going to be in April. I'm speaking at it, and she's creating. It's a book fair, but also it's an expo, business expo.
Oh, okay.
But she so she can, and she's really well connected.
Okay.
In fact, she's best friends with Dr.
You want to have
Anderson.
someone who can book you on all of these shows, get you out there, get your message, get your story out there. Because I'm loving what I'm hearing, and I'm sure a lot of other people will love it too, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's entrepreneurs, whether it's couples, families.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter because the story is helpful.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, those 10 steps that you're talking about, I can't wait to wrap my fingers around those.
Well, you can get the first download when you go to the website.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds great.
Okay.
Wow.
Right.
So we're already at the top of the hour, and it went by really fast, and it's been fantastic.
So for one more time, if you can tell the audience right there about your book, how to get it, your name, and how to get that information.
Sure.
That would be great.
The book is Barbed Wire Souls. It's on Amazon. Just Barbed Wire Souls and my name, Greg Winston. And make sure you go to the same website, barbedwiresouls.com, so that you can get the download that I was talking to about earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. And Crystal, what do you have coming up?
Actually, not much of any, though. I don't have any class. Well, actually, we have our class starting on the 22nd. So for those of you looking to get business ready, contract ready, we have a minority certification class starting February 22nd, which is next Thursday at the Los Angeles Urban League at 4401 Crenshaw Boulevard. We love to have you in the class. Our goal and our mission this year is to get 50 business certified. And in the class, you'll get 2 certifications, the City of Los Angeles and the State of California. And we want to make sure you come out of that with a minimum $50,000 contract, and then you can move from there. So that's what we got going on.
The workshop starts at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, 4 to 6 o'clock.
Yes.
So if you're interested, give me a call at 323-906-7004 or email me at cmitchell544@gmail.com, and I will send you the information to sign up.
And I've got a workshop coming up on the 21st. That's February 21st over with the Southern California Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I'll be teaching a workshop on how to develop your capability statement. So that's going to be a very good one. And again, I'll be joining Crystal as well on the 22nd with a mastermind program helping you small businesses become business ready, contract ready, and bank loan ready. And on March 13th, starting March 13th, I'll be teaching a 7-class series with the National Latina Business Women Association. And that's going to be phenomenal. I'll be in Vegas on March 28th teaching an 8-class series with the Nevada Contractors Association. So small businesses, get ready. Get ready. We need to put you in a position where that scotoma is out of the way.
Gilbert's new word of the day.
The word for the day is scotoma. I want you to look it up. All right?
Look out, guys.
We'll be talking about it from this point on. Scotoma.
So we will see you guys next week. Have a fantastic week. And we'll see you next Friday.
We're out.
As a small biz pro, I saw we roll, using procurement, program, and control. As a small biz pro, I saw we grow, using procurement, program, and control. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh yeah, I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh yeah, I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Ooh, yeah. Crystal Mitchell, do you have my business plan? Just review the pages of my marketing plan. Crystal Mitchell, do you have my business plan? Just review the pages of my marketing plan. Got my capability statement, yes, I'm ready to go. Got my balance sheet, my P&L, my statement of cash flow. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Ooh, yeah. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Ooh, yeah. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Ooh, yeah, yeah. Crystal Mitchell, do you have my business plan? Just review the pages of my marketing plan. Crystal Mitchell, do you have my business plan? Just review the pages of my marketing plan. Got my capability statement, yes, I'm ready to go. Got my balance sheet, my P&L, my statement of cash flow. I'm a business businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Ooh, yeah. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Ooh, yeah. Got an appointment with the SBA, my business license and my CPA.